RC Underground Radio is your go-to podcast for everything RC.
Everything about Kirby's is awesome.
Especially the owner. He's so hot.
I could never find anyone like him on Tinder. For the record, I'm not on Tinder, just so you know.
I
was kind of getting worried there.
More of a grinder guy.
Each episode features top-notch guests, industry leaders, and you, the racer.
Do you guys realize how much it costs to be friends with this dude?
So, grab your transmitter, buckle up, and join us on RC Underground Radio.
Say words.
Here are your hosts, Dave Brinkman and TJ Greer.
Kevin, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, guys. How are you?
We are good. We are great now because we know we're going to have a wild conversation tonight. So we've been looking forward to this. I think we've been trying to do this for the last 2 years. So like the last 50 episodes, we've been trying to put this together. But hey, it is well worth waiting for. There's a lot of things going on in the hobby, especially some exciting things going with EXALT. So it happened when it was meant to happen. And so we're super excited. So let's kick it off. Tej, what do you got for Kevin?
Man, let's start a little bit of the background. Let's start from the beginning, your grassroots. Let's just start from where you got to with Trinity to the end of it to the conception of where we are with Team EXALT today. So let's start with your grassroots, man. How did you get here?
Honestly, I got connected at Trinity about 11 years ago from Michael Bruce. I was just racing in the industry, and I had a background in racing big cars. And I don't know, dude. When you get the name Trinity attached, I mean, that's got a lot of weight behind it, you know. Mm-hmm. Even still today, not being a part of Trinity, I got a lot of love for him, got a lot of respect for him, and I think obviously time heals all wounds, But so we kind of went from just being there and getting all that taken care of to obviously we all know what happened, and it kind of formed the EXALT brand. And a lot of people kind of thought how fast we launched it, we were preparing or we were premeditating. And the sad thing is proudly enough, I could say we weren't. We just kind of, today as I do SKUs and stuff, I'm like, man, I really wish I'd have done this a little bit better. But when you kind of get thrown in so fast into something, we kind of look back now like, man, we could have done this a little different, or we could have done that a little different and made it a lot simpler today. But, when you're kind of pressing, you don't think of certain things that woulda, coulda, shoulda. So like I said, wish those guys over there at Horizon nothing but the best with the brand. And maybe quietly I still root for them. But man, my heart's where I'm at now, and EXALT's the future. And you said something earlier. You said everything happens for a reason, and legitimately it does. It's been a rough, but when I say rough, just been some long days from time to time. But every part of the journey has been a good experience. Just from the do's and the don'ts, the things I've learned already, So I honestly think that maybe some of my excitement for them over there is because maybe it was a blessing in disguise. And I don't want to make that sound like it's being negative towards them or trying to bounce them. It's that things did get stale for a little bit, even though you're at a big company like Trinity, So there was a lot of questions with the limbo of Ernie passing and such. So it might have just been one of those blessing in disguises, but whether it was or it wasn't, I'm going to roll with that because they're doing good over there. We're doing good over here. And everybody's kind of gelling with the direction that they're going.
So would you say that you would take your business, your business motto maybe? Would you say that Ernie P helped shape that for you or guide you in, obviously how he would have ran Trinity? Is that I know from a personal experience from knowing you for the last 3 years, but somebody else that may not know, would you credit that to him, or would you say that you took pieces from that and molded to what you're doing today?
No, it's funny because a lot, AJ's in office. He's like, hey, you gotta, carve your own path. Kind of. Let's not talk about Ernie because I'll be like, oh well, this or whatever. But no matter what the direction is I'm going, like that man himself was a huge impact. And there's a lot of things kind of a testament to what you're just saying as far as like overall, there's a lot of stuff I utilize, and then there's a lot of bad I don't utilize. And that's why I appreciate him, because even the stuff that I don't use it because I watched him do it.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't have very good people skills. His friendship seemed to be honored by the "what could you do for me" motto. Whether it was buying product from me, whatever. And I don't want it to portray like an image like he is a monster, because we've all heard stories throughout the industry and whatnot. But he was definitely a very unique individual.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say that when he did have a really big heart, or a big, when he did care about something, he cared a lot. So yeah. I really kind of took a lot of his business model and took the good and left the bad.
Yeah.
The biggest thing I guess I would say that I kind of utilized that still to this day I'm kind of modifying is the way that we did the pricing structure and everything. Just because you go to 7-Eleven, you go in there, you buy a Coke, and it's $2.99, and you go to 7-Eleven's website, it's $2.99, but you go to any industry or any brand in the industry, and they mark down the pricing already. Whether it's a 15% discount, 30% discount, and they're doing it because I'm assuming mainly because of the way that the sponsorships have gone. Mm-hmm. Without doing it that way, a lot of brands would not be able to survive. Especially in this time frame right now with the tariffs and stuff going on. I mean, we've had to adjust some of our prices, but we're not just doing it to the whole EXALT brand. We're doing it as we get affected. And there are ways around where, unfortunately, certain products are out of stock that should be back in stock by now. But we're kind of bouncing around with a new new way of doing some of this stuff, where something might be getting shipped to another country to get shipped back to us.
Yep.
So that transit time has affected the product being in stock, because that was one of my biggest things. Was it drove me nuts, and it's still today, and it always will, that when you're out of stock of something, that's what people want. Mm-hmm. And
yeah,
they're not gonna get online and buy a motor when they need a motor and a battery. They're gonna wait until they got the motor and battery in stock.
Yes,
unless it's dire need. So I work diligently to make sure that if something does go out of stock, it's a very quick time lapse. Mm-hmm. and whatnot. So it's not as cookie cutter as I wanted it. Well, let me rephrase that. It's not as cookie cutter as some may think it is, as far as, they just took, I've heard this from people, and hopefully people will understand this when I say it, but I've heard, Trinity and EXALT are pretty much the same thing. Like, you took the design culture of Trinity and brought it over to EXALT, and I'm like, well, you're about 50% correct.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
I took Trinity's way and then threw my spin on it, and that's what we saw for like the last 8 or 9 years at Trinity, because I pretty much did a lot of the graphics and stuff. Mm-hmm. So it's not Trinity. It's basically you're seeing my style kind of bleed over with a little bit of Trinity incorporated.
Yep.
So, and other than that, Ernie never really cared. Like he just wanted things to be he wanted things to be able to be seen, bright, something abstract, whatever it takes to get it out in the public view. That's all he cared about. So as long as you didn't alter his logo, he was fine with everything. So it really wasn't the Trinity way. It was do whatever you want to do that sells my product. Just do not alter my logo.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. And that's why that was the only frustrating part about Horizon was that the very first thing they did was alter Ernie's logo. I'm like, you guys don't know the man.
Yeah, you done lost it.
Yeah,
but,
so, I get it, but that day that I saw him alter that, I was like, oh, he's turning in his grave.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So what about the start of EXALT? What was it like to start that from nothing to what you have right now?
So luckily, when all this went down, I had a really good buddy of mine, obviously Brian.
GS Hobbies, let's go.
Yeah, right. And I don't think I've ever met anybody that genuinely had such a love for RC. You meet a lot of people that have the passion, the love, and whatnot, but I don't think I've ever met anyone that had more than what he has. They might have equally, but he's just pure at heart, wants to enjoy toy cars.
Yeah.
I can go to a race and not race. I actually prefer that, to be quite frank.
I'm with you on that, Lane.
Yeah, right?
I got to race. I got to. I'm out. I got to race.
Well, and a lot of my discouragement on racing is that I like to, even when I'm not doing good, it's not that I'm not putting 100% in. It's that I'm unfortunately just don't have that ability anymore to drive. It's left I don't even know if it ever came into my hands, but I did, I was a lot better back in the day, but this is the EXALT brand is what I enjoy the most now. Brian, he really, when he goes to a race, he wants to race.
Yeah.
And, for being an older gentleman, when I say older, he's not old. He's in his late 40s, early 50s, I believe. But he can still wheel.
Oh, man, he is a carpet fiend, and he is, he's good. Look at his facility. You know what I mean? Like, he's got a top-notch facility over there. Mm-hmm. People fly in from all over just to come and do some club racing. AJ's went in there a couple times, killed it, done well for the most part, but you go and look at his hobby shop and you look at his entire building and his program, like, it shows passion. There's not a single corner cut in Brian's hobby shop at GS Hobbies. We'll post some pictures up on this as well, but even his shows, you know what I mean? He'll go and run a great program, and he'll race it too. Yeah. You know what I mean? And he's got Creed there that does a great job for him, so, and his wife, we went there and before Chili Bowl, and his wife's in the back just sticking stickers. That's all she's doing. Taping boxes, sticking stickers. So it's an empire that's doing well. But you could see his passion, and it shows. Oh, sure. It shows when he comes to the races, and he's standing at the trackside, and he's just thoroughly enjoying asking questions. What are the team drivers needing? What are they using? What are you guys seeing that you guys are doing for them? And he's taking that feedback, and I could say, Brian, hey, we need more 6.0s. We need more 7.0s, and he's like, I'll bring it. I'll be there next day. That's the passion for the company that he exudes, because he's willing to say, hey, if that's what you need, we'll drop ship it. 2 years ago, that's what he was doing for Kevin. They sold out all the product that he brought in his OGO bag. He turned around.
I couldn't believe that.
Oh, it was day 1, day 2, he's out. He's calling Brian at GS Hobbies like, we need everything. Like, clear your shelves, bring it all to Chili Bowl, because it's going to sell.
Yeah, we did. That's why I told AJ this year. I was like, hey, listen, you're going to probably sell out, or you're going to get real close. Like the stock game is it's one of these, even though I will say that right now, just coming off of the Nationals, it might be the closest of the motors that I've ever seen. Meaning, like, the A-main of the two-wheel drive stock buggy guys, it was, it was like 3 seconds.
Yeah.
It was very minimal, and it really just comes down to the drivers. don't get me wrong. I think the Hobby Wing products had their strengths and weaknesses on that track. The EXALT motors had their strengths and their weaknesses on that track. The R1 motors had their strengths. Like, everybody had their strengths and their weaknesses, but when you take it as a whole, they all were like 99.7, 99.8. I mean, we were, if one was a slightly better than another, dude, we're talking decimals.
Yeah.
You know, the racing was that close that I honestly, I just think that the parity of stock racing right now is at some of its best.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, I don't think I saw any motor failures as far as going through tech, anything like that. So, I mean, it kind of sucks to see the direction we're going with how the manufacturers can develop or deliver right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that uncertainty of what the manufacturers are going to deliver, it may be the best thing since sliced bread. Who knows? But I know that right now it's going to be hard to beat what we're currently be able to offer, not only just the consumers, but the industry as a whole.
Oh, I'll tell you, you know, we went to the Crater. You know, it's a big high bite. It is fast. You know, your car looks like it's not going very fast on this dirt oval track in Michigan. But I had a racer run an SE mod. I was like, I just don't have enough for this track. You know, and I was like, I know what you need. You need a 5.5. I gave him a 5.0, brand new. You know, me, I carry the stock because I want people to have that. You know, if they need it, they'll get it. You know, I'm not a retailer. I never try and go to sell. I'm there to race, but I'm also there to support the team drivers the best that I can. Gave him the motor, and he was like, man, it's just the 5.0 is not what I'm looking for. I'm like, I know what you need. You need a 5.5 with like a green rotor, you know, and that's what you're looking for. And he's like, do you got it? And I was like, I got the 5.5. That's already in my car, and that's what I'm using. So, but I was able to give him a 5.0, and it was competitive for him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's still in his car today. You know,
wow.
Yeah, and so it's somebody who's not a team driver for any company really, you know. But he runs his own track, and I'm telling you, man, this 5.5, I'll run this motor everywhere, and I don't take it out. You know what I mean? So, but that was something that I was able to be proud of, was that the consistency that we get with all of our motors, even in the buggy-based stuff, where you've got guys like Nick and Cuz, and they're like, give me a 7.0, and that's the motor that we run. You know what I mean? And when we go to Chili Bowl and we start going through, and you got guys like Ryan Ralph and Chapman that need different settings and tunings and stuff, and that's what it was at Chili Bowl, man. It was every day. The first 2.5 hours of my day was spent soldering stuff in for other drivers. That's all we did.
Doesn't surprise me.
You know, and it wasn't because they didn't have it. It's because they needed something different. They knew that they needed maybe just, hey, we don't need to, I want to take all the turbo out. I want to take all the boost out. I'm like, if you want to do that, then change your turn of motor, you know, and just try and do a natural boost and turbo with a different turn. You know, and then we had AJ going through and changing everybody's settings, and it was working. It was really good, and then the track changed, and then they were going to slick tires, and then it was, now we're throwing more at it, you know, and forever changing, you know. But I think I like the most about EXALT is the fact that it's a high-quality product. I can bank on it. You know, I'm not worried about, man, I just don't know if this motor is going to make it, or I'm not worried if this servo is if it's going to last. You know, I'm running the same servo I've been on for 2 years now. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And no problems. You know, I just now switched out batteries I used last year at Chili Bowl. You know what I mean? So if I can go a full year running an SE mod at every racetrack I'm at, and I'm still using the same batteries, the same 3 batteries, cycling them through, that's top quality. You know, no puffing. You know, and that's it. You know, we've had some struggles with some of the things, the bullets, you know what I mean? I had one for like 3 races, kept popping off. And I just figured out we're just having too much resistance and draw from our ESCs, and we don't have enough wire that's going into the channel that's causing that. You don't really see that in stock cars. You don't really see it in spec racing. So it's okay. But when we start pulling the amps that we're doing with these bigger ESCs in the 8th scale, yeah, it's hard. You know, it's hard on them. So, but I mean, that's part of it, you know, just willing to, hey, I got to fail trying this product.
So, hey guys, a couple of things real quick. So we got we have a lot of people that either were in the hobby a long time ago and coming back in and they learn about it from the show, or they've known nothing about this hobby, and just from us meeting people, talking to people, and word spreads, they're like, I had no idea. So Kevin, help me out. If I have to put a number to what the RC industry is, not just EXALT, but everything, what size industry would you think RC racing is, or just RC in general, all the big companies, everybody combined?
You just talking about just like RC racers as in the world, or are you just talking about?
I'm just saying, if there was a number that you could put, and I'm just throwing numbers out, 100 million, 200 million, a billion, whatever it is, what would you call this industry?
Man, that's a good question. I mean, because it's so weird. When we go to the big events, you pretty much see the same guys.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're including Bastion and stuff, I mean, it's got to be up there. I mean, just look at all the NASCAR drivers that have some form of connection to RC. And, I mean, and every man has some kind of adrenaline rush locked in their DNA.
Yeah.
So I mean, I wouldn't know what kind of a number to throw on it, but it's got to be up there.
Yeah. So I'm saying from the corporate side. So if you took Traxxas and Trinity and you guys and all the companies, because that's where some people lose it. They're like,
looking at like a 300 million, you're looking at like 400 million. Like, what are you thinking? Like, it could be if. I mean, obviously, you don't know the numbers that, R1's pulling. You don't know. I mean, you may. I don't know. I don't.
Right.
But
no.
You know what I mean?
Main, all of that stuff. It's like, I don't know. Is it 300 million? Is it?
It's got to be more than that, especially if you start putting in the main distributions of like main and, Traxxas doing all their stuff by themselves, I
mean, just the Traxxas building itself. I mean, it has to warrant those kind of numbers.
I mean, I would say just alone with Horizon, A-Main. I mean, A-Main, I think, is a lot bigger than what most people think. I've had some conversation with some people at A-Main, and when I heard the numbers of the amount of people that they employ, it was like, not to throw their information on blast, but it was probably about 100 times more than I expected.
Sure.
Wow. They are a monster company. And I think amongst, just like you said, Traxxas, they got to be the biggest.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
When you can afford to put your big rig on Fast and Furious, you got this.
Yeah, you got a little cheddar to throw at it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like any industry that surprises you. Like pet shops. You see pet shops all over. It's like, is that really a viable business? And you find out, oh yeah, it's a it's a $700 million a year industry. It's like, what? So that makes I get in the conversation with people that know nothing about it and want it and like are just sucking it up like a sponge. Like what is this compared to? I don't know, roller hockey or, something like that, something, bowling or, something where it's an industry and there's companies selling and there's branding and there's marketing and there's a lot of people, including myself, that's like really intrigued with that, and it's gotta be a big number that like you say, would be 100% more than we probably could try to figure out.
I mean, I guess it's kind of like, one of the biggest things I try to keep myself grounded with is always surrounding myself where I'm new at something, where even if it's electrical, as stupid as it sounds, I mean, I took on playing with golf carts. I have a golf cart, and it's not, it blows people away when, I'll see some, a buddy of mine that might be working in the industry or something, and the customer asks a very rare question, and the guy, like, when he walks away, he's like, dude, that guy should have freaking known that. Like, what the heck? Mm-hmm. And to be quite honest with you, it that kind of mindset closes off the industry, pushes people away and doesn't attract them in. And that's where I started, like, surrounding myself in avenues that I'm that newbie. You know, I'm asking the stupid questions where, I hate to say it, a question like, hey man, I thought I bought an EXALT motor. I have to have an EXALT ESC. Like that's a very, that's a legitimate thought a lot of people have. And when they don't know, or when they realize that you don't have to, they're like, wow, you know, so, but in the golf cart industry, which is just a bigger version, if somebody told me, oh no, you have to run the two together, he's gonna get me to believe him because I don't know.
Right.
You know, so I try to surround myself into avenues like that so that it keeps me remembering that once upon a time I was just like that guy that just asked me a question, no matter how good or how stupid it was. And you got to have that mindset, because as long as you do and you make these people feel, you know, welcomed, they're gonna not only try to support you, I think, but they're going to jump in this hobby, because honestly, it is arguably one of the best things I've ever been a part of.
Well, and what you bring up is, you know, the label of that is integrity, right? Because if he doesn't hear from you, at some point he's going to hear it, and he's going to be like, I talked to Kevin. Why didn't he tell me I could run any ESC? Yeah. So, but that he heard it from you, he walks away going, that's pretty impressive. Exactly what you said about the golf cart. He's going to walk away going, I would have bought both. I assumed, right? You said, I assumed that I needed both. Kevin set me straight and said, no, you run something else. And that person's going to walk away going, you know what? I'm an EXALT customer for life, because that guy's straight up. He told me the truth. And it wasn't about just buying from him. But you know what? I am going to buy from him because he did give it to me straight. So based on that, another area I want to talk about, just because I'm an oldie too, right? I was racing back in the 70s. And that was back in the day when you had to buy, if you were going to go run a big race, you had to buy 50 packs, 60 packs of batteries, right? And I think we both agree the way you're chuckling about it is that destroyed the hobby, because not everybody could do that. Is any of that still going on, or are the batteries of today where you just don't have to do that?
I mean, I can't speak for other manufacturers. I can speak that from any of my experience, whether it was back in the day in the Trinity days or today to the future, the way I approach it with our vendors, I think it comes down to what you get, and what I mean by, or what you give. And what I mean by that is, we all want to maximize our margins. But with that being said, you got to provide quality. You got to be able to provide consistency. And in doing so, there was times where, when Ernie was teaching me the ropes, if you want to call it that, I would, it was just about having the one up. Like, he just wanted to just know that he controlled the situation. And sometimes you just kind of had to fib to him and say, hey man, I got this guy that's willing to give us for this. And that price was never discussed. It was honestly just a little bit different. And then I come back, because you beat these guys up. And I think that really, they start to grasp that you're not chasing quality, you're chasing margin. And with the batteries, it is a perishable item. There is a shelf life. There is all that stuff. So,
and it's how you take care of it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can do damage to them.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. I mean, when I started there, our warranty process was, our warranty volume was quite a lot. And, I get it, every minute counts. So when a batch of batteries would come in, they would just get pushed on the shelf. Well, where'd the old ones go? They're in the very back, so by the time that back one sold, it might be a year old, and whatnot. So I kind of changed the way that we did it there, where FIFO, first in, first out kind of deal. And we pushed the batteries to the back, and he was like, oh my God, this is a waste of time, but there's so many avenues of not just providing good product, that it takes. It's not just getting it from the vendors; it's how you take care of it in the process. So I always work with our vendors where I tell them, listen, if I'm not making money, you're not making money. If you're not making money, we're not in business.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So I will be straight with you if margins are tight on a certain area, and vice versa. And when we started the battery stuff, there was one battery where I went to the vendor and I said, you're probably you don't hear this that often. I said, but you can charge me a little bit more for this battery. But I need you to drop this battery because it's a little bit out of the range. And he's like, oh, okay. Because there was a give and take.
Yeah.
Sure.
And
sure.
Unfortunately, you'll never really catch me. I mean, I'm a very competitive person, but you'll never really catch me knocking a product, and especially somebody else's battery, because every manufacturer is going to have their highs and their lows.
Sure.
It's just how that manufacturer is going to cover their quality of their product, and whatnot. And so, I mean, I think one of the biggest things to answer your question, Dave, is like, I really think that if you, for one, keep the vendors competitive and you make them kind of battle against each other, that's a good thing. But also to, to kind of do what we just started with, that battery voltage guarantee, where it's not a performance test by any means. It is just solely that, could it be possible that a battery could get, damaged in shipping? I mean, with that kind of stuff, anything's possible. But
sure.
The probability is going to be very minimal. So if we can provide that little label, that gives the customers, because I've been at hobby shops where I've watched the just while I'm being there, the staff loading the shelf with new inventory, and they don't rotate the product. So now when, say TJ walks in and buys a battery, they can say, oh, well, let me look. Okay, they know which ones they need to start taking, so that hopefully they can keep rotating the product and keep the quality better, for one, from a date aspect. But then, like I said, it'll also help with us where, we haven't had many. I mean, out of all the batteries we've shipped out, we've probably maybe had 5 that are dead on arrival.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
you're going to have that. Yeah. It's just
absolutely. So, I mean, I think it's really what you put into it. If you put an emphasis on your product, I think there's ways around it. And like I said, it's not that I'm trying to lop off my margins, but I am taking the extra precautions to make sure that we are doing the best of our ability to provide consistency and quality to the customer. Because it's just like TJ said, not to be starting a debate on like politics per se, but
right.
TJ is not really looking for internal resistance numbers on his SC mod. He's looking for, exactly. So the different genres of the batteries and what their applications gives you the freedom to also build the product around that, where...
Right, because, I mean, if you look at what EXALT has to offer, it's not saying, hey, our 6400 is your see-all, do-all battery. Everybody's going to use it. Right. Or the 52. Hey, it's not going to be the mod battery of choice. But when you're going and you're doing your spec racing and you can start to speak to those different the milliamps that you're using, that's huge, because you're offering a gamut that says we can apply anything you need for the type of racing you're doing. Just go on the site and find it. You know what I mean? And so you're taking the next steps to give me quality, and it's simple. You're literally just checking it, putting that label on it, and shipping it out the door. And to me, it's a Tommy Boy guarantee. You're putting the quality label on it. You know what I mean? But it's that warm and fuzzy feeling that you get as a racer. I was just looking for the box because I just got a big EXALT order in like a week or two ago, and it's on there. It was on the shorty packs, and I was like, huh. And it was before he ever even posted it. So I had already I'd already had some of the new ones. And so I looked at it and I was like, that's awesome. You know what I mean? But that's that next step, He had already sent it out to me, and I never said anything. I wasn't going to say anything at all until they posted it. But that's that next step quality that it's, I don't know of anybody else doing it. It's almost like getting your motor that's motorized before you ever even get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, and that's where, earlier we were talking about like the things that I would take from Trinity and the things I wouldn't from my experience being there. And I mean, quite frankly, if I didn't take the minute to listen to some of the customers,
Yeah.
My mindset would have been differently. But the customers really kind of educated me on this. And for me, I thought the certified batteries were not a bad idea. But at that time, too, just like you said, the quality, the consistency were not as consistent. Where, like I said, I just got back from nationals, and the way we would typically prepare for nationals of any level would be, hey, AJ, let's go through some batteries. Mm-hmm. Let's check them out. Let's do this and do that. And he's like, hey, do you want me to go through some batteries? I'm like, nah, just grab 5 off the shelf, and grab 5 of this model, and when we were there and I pulled them out, I pulled them out and whatnot, the guys were like, hey, which one's the better one? Which one's this? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm going to start cycling and I'll let you guys know. And I mean, they were, honestly, 3 of the 5 of each model that I took were identical on resistance. Mm-hmm. Now, granted, there's a lot more factors, but trackside, that's all I check. Maybe some milliamp and whatnot. But, we also try to make my life a little bit easier because everybody that's flown with LiPo batteries, you kind of feel like, you're Bin Laden.
Yeah, I mean,
it's
a risk you're willing to take, and that's anytime you fly with RC stuff, like
Jeremy Riley, when he was still racing and his son Ian was still racing, I don't think Ian had flown much, so Jeremy's like, hey, I'm going to fly Ian down to Florida, and then he can fly with you to Arizona. And I'm like, okay. And I told Ian, I said, hey, listen, when we go through TSA, I said, they're going to treat me like I am getting ready to blow up a plane. So just be prepared. And he's like, really? I'm like, oh, yeah. And he was like, wow, like, what the heck, And I'm like, they got to do all the swabbing and everything. So mm-hmm. I try to minimize that now where I tell the guys, hey, look, just keep your product fresh. When we go to the big races, I want to start collecting data to give it to the customers mm-hmm. With our motor sheet and such. So now what we do is they have their own batteries, and I bring some in case we need them and whatnot. And the same thing with the motors. I bring motors that they put the motors in, they race them at the event. While they have the motors that they're racing, I'm servicing their current motors, checking the rotor, make sure the rotor strength hasn't dropped down, all that. And at the end of the event, we swap motors back, and then that motor comes back, and I log the data, and that's what we put on our motor setup sheets.
So I do get questions a lot. So a lot of times people are asking, hey, what's the motor you're running? What's so special about it? What does Kevin let you guys have that we can't? And I'm a firm believer, and especially with GFRP too, I try and build the car as box as I can and hit the track with it, because that's the best way to tell the customer, hey, we're going to get you a product out of the box. You'll be a tenth off. A tenth is a lot in oval world. But if you add this and this and this, it's going to put you at the competitive edge of this. And so I do the same with motors. I'm not going through there and changing everything. I'm letting you guys go through and leave the timing as what you guys set it at and leave it as box as possible. Yeah. And that's because I think when we go and give these guys the feedback that they want to hear, there's no frills. I'll take my motor out and give it to you, and you can run it. And you can tell me whether or not you think it's what you need, if it's going to be competitive. And I'll put a brand new out-of-the-box motor. You'll see me pull it out. I'll put it right in. It'll be just the same thing, brand new. And I'll feel confident enough to know that I can win with it.
Yeah, I mean that's honestly, so it seems to be like the theme, but like with the comparison of the old, my past and my future is that Ernie made sure that the team had good stuff. and as they should. I mean, if you're with a brand and they're not giving you top quality stuff, well, then you probably need to be moving on. If you're that kind of talent, but that kind of plays into right now not for any other brand, but for EXALT, what the consumer is buying, I can give the customer the same thing as I can give the team drivers. And the reason I try to push that is because if you're a factory driver and you're running stock, you shouldn't be holding that position because you're getting you're getting better product than the paying customer.
You should be able to win with the same product.
Yeah,
exactly. And Ernie thought differently. And 1 year, I didn't travel to Cleveland, and him and Jim Dieter were there. And I get a phone call, and he's like, "Hey, man, what the heck did you do to Tom Fergian's motor?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Dude, he is just kicking Andrew Knapp's rear end." And they were, I shouldn't say they, but Ernie was pissed. And, it's the weekend, man. I'm off. I don't remember what I did exactly. Go look at the motorizer sheet kind of deal. But make a long story short, Tom Fergian went on to beat Andrew Knapp. And that Monday, we sold more motors than ever because the top driver got beat by a general racer, Exactly. And I hate to say it, the top drivers, they take your money. They don't make you money. To an extent.
Yeah.
Well,
we get it.
Totally get it. 100%. They're 100%. They're costing the company money, but the ROI is bigger when they go out and win.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
When they go out and win, you look at Mason Fuller going out there and winning and doing what he's doing, and everybody's like, I think I read a post maybe. It said something about what's changed on his motor. They were talking about the motor that he was running at Nitro, and it was nothing. It was like it was box stock. It was just put in, and they just ran it. He said it's the same motor as be running for. They said what bearings did he put in it? He said honestly, my maintenance program kind of sucked. I haven't changed the bearings in it. It's the same motor I've been running for the last year. And he was like, "There's no surprise. Like it's probably worn out. It's probably in really bad shape, honestly." But you could see him just absolutely take that stretch from somebody, and it was a whole shot. He had gobs of power, but that's it. It's maintainable power, and if we can take a stock motor as a team driver and put it in a car and be competitive, I want the consumer to know that.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, if I turn around and say, "Hey, we're gonna start throwing rotors at it, and we're gonna do things different," I'll share. I'll tell you. You know what I mean? But the main thing we should do is we should be supporting them with the box stock because that's what the consumer's probably going to get.
Right, right.
Or they probably don't know how to do rotors, or they probably don't know how to turn a sensor board, or add timing, or take it away, or under gear so you can overtime. There's a lot of tricks you can do, and some of your average racer doesn't know that, but they got to have the confidence knowing that they're going to buy a product that they want, buy a product that they believe in, and buy a product that's going to work. If they keep buying the same motor because their friend's running it and it's failing, guess what? They're probably going to switch companies and go somewhere else.
Oh, absolutely. And everyone's going to have their niche. You're going to have your hardcore Tekin guys, your hardcore Trinity guys, and your hardcore whatever. EXALT's got their hardcore guys. And honestly, in a very short time frame, TJ, you've become one of them, and there for me personally, there's obviously a lot of personal connections out there, but realistically, I said this the other day, and somebody kind of laughed at me, and maybe I'm incorrect, but if you think back 10 years ago, the Reedy motors, at least in off-road, were set the timing and gear to temperature, and that's how you did it. Nowadays, you got to have motorizers. You got to have this. You got to have that. Just like real mechanics. Back in the day, they used wrenches. Now, when I went to get my oil change in my truck, I watched two mechanics walk to their vehicles they're working on with the laptops. So much is changing that the back in the day, from yesterday past, I think we've migrated as an RC industry from the NASCAR theory to we're turning into F1.
Oh, absolutely.
Where we're I mean, dude, we're getting ready to start selling solder, and I had got a bunch. I mean, I want to say honestly, 20 different kinds of solder, and I was spooling off 2 feet and checking the resistance on solder.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
we talked about it. We talked about it. As nobody else is going to go out there and test this and say we're checking resistance on solder, and I was like, those ones who want the competitive edge, they know what they're looking in for, know what you're doing. Yeah.
You know, I mean, and that does matter. I mean, I have a couple locals down here that, you know, we've been playing with. I mean, you know, he might get mad at me, and I'm not really. I apologize if he does, but Matty G from Hobby Wing was telling everybody, "Oh, you got to run this big wire." AJ Marasco is the one that really figured it out, and it came from the drag racing.
Yep.
You know, but AJ shared it with Matthew, and then Matthew just started telling everybody. But I mean, we've been doing it for a lot longer than most people know, and that's a big adjustment in the sense of restricting your current through not only the motor but the ESC, and you know, so we're in a game of millimeters now instead of inches, and if your consumer isn't really enjoying the product, then really what are we doing? You know, so you gotta just try to provide that consistency. And unfortunately, I think there's a point where if this guy's got a little bit better than you do, well, he might just be putting more effort in.
All right, boys. Well, at this point, you know, we've had such a great conversation that we got to keep going. You know, we've hit our time limit, but we got to keep going. So this is going to be episode 99. So we are one away from episode 100. And Kevin, we can't thank you enough for all this great content you're giving us.
I appreciate you guys for having me. It was a lot of fun. You guys have got a really good podcast here, and I do genuinely appreciate you guys, you know, reaching out and seeing if I could do this.
That's awesome. Well, TJ, what do you think? Are you ready for 100?
Stick around because episode 100 is going to be a barn burner.
It's going to be off the chain, folks. So again, thanks everybody for checking in this week. You know, as we always say, just reach out to Carpies, reach out to Papa Willie's. Thank them for their support of the show. Without them, we couldn't do this. We couldn't have awesome guests like Kevin and help the RC community as we do. When we have the 100th episode, we're going to tell you about something that we're doing for a local racer that's a young racer who's been hit with cancer. So we're going to bring you up to speed on that. And some of our plans for the summer because we do take the break. So we'll see you next week for episode 100.
Is your ride as exciting as a soggy sandwich?
Does your wardrobe scream,
I'm not trying?
Turn heads with Carpies, the place for custom wraps, apparel, and all things awesome. Want to look cooler than your neighbor? Want a wrap that makes your car the talk of the town? Want apparel that screams,
I'm not basic?
Carpies has you covered. Carpies, custom wraps, apparel, and more.
Because who wants to be boring?
Visit Carpies. Wrap your world. Wear your swag. Visit Carpies.com today. Introducing Papa Willie's Traction Tonic, the ultimate solution to boost your grip and speed on dirt, carpet, or pavement. Papa Willie's gives you the traction you need to leave the competition in the dust. Just apply and watch your car stick to the ground like never before. No more spinning out, just pure relentless traction. Get Papa Willie's Traction Tonic and put the pedal to the metal. Available online. Visit papawillies.com today. Papa Willie's, where traction meets action.
Thank you for listening to the RC Underground Radio Podcast. Be sure to like, subscribe, and tell your fellow racers about the show. Tune in again next week for more RC content.